Thank you for giving me your time this morning to speak about your new Lifetime film, Pretty Hurts. I was watching it, really feeling sorry for your character in the beginning because those girls were giving her such a hard time.
Oh, girl, it is they give Lauren a really, really hard time. She goes through it in this movie for sure.
She goes through it. And one thing I don't like are bullies. So this took me back to my like middle school, high school days. Like, oof,
I
bullies.
know.
I can't stand bullies.
I know. And the girls, the girls really know how to like dig in there and like hit the nerve. So yeah, they're not too nice to Lauren at all in this movie.
What drew you to this role, this character that I loved almost immediately, and you're rooting for immediately because she's the underdog with these bullies, right? And so what drew you to this role, and what do you hope audiences take away from Lauren's journey?
Well, what first drew me to Lauren was I love how ambitious she is. I love seeing young girls have these big dreams and big goals for themselves. I I am that way, and so I loved how she wanted to be a doctor and she was working so hard and got such good grades, but she was still like a normal girl. She wasn't written to be like this nerd or this popular girl. She just was like one of my friends. She felt very relatable to me, so that first drew me to Lauren. Um, and I really hope that people, A, take away that it's okay to dream big and have ambitions. But also, I hope that they leave a little bit more educated about meningitis and the risks that are associated with the disease, and just have a little bit more education and awareness of what it would look like to prevent meningitis and all of it that we go into in the movie.
Yeah, Pretty Hurts, as you just noted, raises awareness about meningitis, which is a very real and serious health risk for teens and young adults, right? So how did you approach telling that part of the story? And for you as an actress, why is that important for viewers to know about?
I approached it a little bit. I did of my own research, kind of learning what meningitis was. And through the script, I was able to learn through my best friend Ray, who gets meningitis, through the symptoms that they are describing through her. That's kind of how I sort of learned about meningitis. And I just really hope that this movie is able to educate people and that they can learn more specifically about meningitis B, and that a lot of people are vaccinated for all the other types, but not necessarily meningitis B. So yeah, that's kind of how I learned it through the movie, and they wrote it so well with the symptoms throughout the movie. Lauren is sort of realizing how Ray is getting sicker and sicker. So yeah.
This film explores the oftentimes harsh realities behind the glamour of beauty pageants, right? So how did you prepare emotionally and mentally to step into that environment?
Well, I wasn't a pageant girl, but I did do high school theater, which is not the same, but there is an element of cutthroatness in any sort of performing aspect. So I could relate to it in that way. Um, and more than anything, being a high schooler is really hard. So I just kind of tuned into how it felt to have all of that pressure on getting into the right school and having your future all mapped out, and how cruel kids can be, especially if you're confident or a little bit different. I definitely didn't go through what Lauren went through, but I had plenty of people be not very nice to me in high school. So just kind of channeling those moments, and I read a couple of my old journals, looked at some of my old photos, and just kind of like get me in the mindset of what it felt like to be a teenage girl. Um, and Lauren is such a relatable character. I didn't feel that far off from who I am. So I just trusted that my instincts would probably be take me there.
So is it safe to say then that this story, this mix of beauty, danger, the mother-daughter dynamics, it resonated with you on a personal level in some ways?
100%. It resonated me with me on a very personal level. I was very ambitious, like I said, as a high schooler. I loved acting, but I also did very well in school. I was a straight A student. I loved school and learning, and I really related to that. And I'm also really close with my mom. And so this dynamic with me and Haley, who plays my mom, was just really easy for me to lock into. And it felt like not very far off from my personal life.
Like you just stated, Haley plays your mom in the film. So what was the dynamic like with her on set? Can you describe the creative energy and how did it help shape your performance as Lauren?
Haley is absolutely incredible. She really was kind of this maternal energy for me. She's also extremely inspiring for me. She is a mom, she's a director, she's an actress. She juggles all of these balls and wears all of these hats all of the time. It was so inspiring for me to see someone be so kind, but also stand up for herself and be so talented, all while being a mom and doing everything. I hope that I can be a sliver of what she is in this industry. And she got to bring her girls on set a couple of days, and that was really fun to see just in real time what it looks like to be a working mom and a working actress. So yeah, it was a blast working with Haley, and she's incredible.
Absolutely. So Sarah, let me ask you, what are you most excited about viewers to experience when they deep dive into Pretty Hurts?
I am excited for the fashion girl in me to for everyone to see all the fun pageant dresses that we all got to wear. We all wore Sherry Hill fun, sparkly dresses. So I'm really excited for people to see that. I'm excited. There's a little dance sequence in the movie, so I'm excited for people to see how that came together. And for people to leave, like I said, knowing a little bit more about meningitis, maybe start having those conversations around what it looks like to prevent this disease, and just be aware of how quickly meningitis can come on, and hopefully talk to the young adults and teens in their life.
It says the film is part of GSK's Ask to Be Sure campaign, which is encouraging conversations about meningitis prevention. So, as someone who has studied psychology, how important do you think storytelling is when it comes to educating people, especially teenagers, about their health?
That is a great question. I think it's pivotal. I think we learn the best through storytelling. That is how our brain makes everything into a story. That's how we store our memories. That's how we think about things is in beginning, middle, and end. So by educating people through a story and letting them have empathy for these characters, it'll last more than just kind of like spouting facts at people. They're able to actually empathize with these characters and be like, wow, that could happen to me or that could happen to my best friend. And it really kind of sinks in a little bit more, than just kind of like giving a general PSA. So I think it's everything. I think storytelling is why we like being human and why we watch movies. So, yeah.
Right on.